All right, let's start. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. My name is Mira, and I'm a product marketing manager here at Miro. Today, we have a session which is called How Visualization of Work Can Help High-Performing Teams Deliver Outcomes. We're joined for this session by Ilaria and Anna from Red Hat Open Innovation Labs, and they're both engagement leads, and they have been in the space of agile practice for many, many years. Before we start with the session, I just wanted to give a couple of housewarming tips. So first and foremost, the session is recorded and it will be available for you tomorrow. Secondly, if you want to send any questions, please use the chat functionality and basically ask any question that you like. Also, more importantly, before you leave the session towards the end, please answer one question in the feedback tab on the right side of your screen. And last but not least, we also have live translations available for the session. So if you click on the translations tab on the right side, you can pick one of the many languages that are supported, such as Japanese, German, Spanish, French, Portuguese. Without further ado, I would like to hand over to Ilaria and Anna. And ladies, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Mira. I guess we're going to introduce ourselves, but if you already done such a great job, so we're probably going to move directly to the content of the session. So I guess the first thing is on me. So before I start talking about things, I just wanted to mention that for every source that we are quoting, we've got the reference where it's coming from. So feel free to, if you want to learn more details, to click on those links and you will be able to go deep into those concepts. We are just going to mention them because our session is quite short. So if you don't see anything clearly from my presentation, you can always explore it a little bit more. So that was just a little bit of the logistics, but we are going to talk about high-performing teams delivering outcomes and how the visualization of work can help them. So we thought that it's super important to align on the vocabulary. So we want to start with high-performing teams. High-performing teams is a really widely discussed in the industry topic. So I'm not going to go on one way or another, but I'm just going to tell you what we think about high-performing teams. Ilaria and I, we both work with teams from the beginning of the stage. So when they start forming, we help them build, and then we work with them to the moment when they get to the stage or performing. And high-performing teams are the teams that operate in the space where the motivation works for people. So we follow the learnings of Dan Pink, where he talks about the things that really motivate people to do the best of themselves is autonomy, mastery, and purpose. So the teams that we work with are the teams that are given problems to solve. They are not being handed solutions. They are being given enough autonomy so they can figure out what is the solution that's going to work best. They are given enough space to master their skills, and they are being united under the purpose, shared understanding that brings them to the place where they want to be. So obviously there is more to that for the teams. If someone follows learnings of Amy Edmondson, it's psychological safety is super important for the high performing teams. We also talk about trust as being one of the things. So all of that are the things that we consider in the context of the high performing teams. So high performing teams ticked. Let's move to the visualization of work to bring more elements together. So visualization of work is all about making the work visible. It's not a new concept. It's something that was widely performed by the manufacturing in Japanese factories. The idea is that you want to make sure that anything that needs to be done, any activity that needs to be included, is clearly known to everybody. It's not some sort of side desk activity. And that's what we practice in our engagements. We basically operate in two different modes. We work face-to-face and we work in the distributed modes. So if we work face-to-face, we use all the spaces, all the walls around to visualize everything that's important for that team. So there will be backlog items, activities, there will be things, the principles of the team, things like the social contract and so on, anything that can help align the team together. We also have a little bit of the video, maybe Ilaria can play, I'll zoom it a little bit. So that's a very short GIF on how the visualization of work works in our lab, the space where we operate. So as you can see, we make use of every single inch of space available to us. And obviously, when we don't have opportunity to work in the face-to-face, we use great virtual tools like Miro that help us get together all the information for the team in one space and organize it accordingly. So that's in a nutshell how we understand the visualization of work. And finally, last but not least, the outcomes. So we like to measure our work in outcomes. We don't believe in outputs. We don't believe in like trying to achieve a number of lines of code. We don't believe in trying to achieve a number of story points or certain number of stories. What we want to do is having outcomes, which is like getting a new possibility, solving a problem, changing the behavior of a set of users. That's how we like to define our engagements. So in order to be able to get the team focused on the engagement, we use this tool called target outcomes. So target outcomes is nothing else other than defining what we are trying to build in something where we know the baseline, and we say like, we are going to do this engagement for the next 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks, and we are starting with this baseline of X percentage. And after the activities that we've done, we want to achieve this change. So these are the target outcomes. That's how we use. So we now have the full puzzle. We know what we mean when we talk about high-performing teams. We know what we mean when we talk about visualization of work, and we know what we mean when we talk about outcomes. So Ilaria, can you tell us how we could, what could we use to help bring those three elements together?
Yeah, well, I'm very sorry for chiming in. Can I please ask you to stop sharing your screen for a second and reshare? But when you click share, there are two options. One says Miro, and the other one simply says screen. So can you please just click share screen?
And there is not anymore the share screen. So I did before when I entered, okay. And now there is only the Miro.
Okay, then please start that again. Sorry.
But now I need to re-enter, so I can't do it.
Oh.
Sorry, everybody, technical glitch, don't get, bear with us.
It disappeared from the menu.
Okay, let me share the screen then.
So I follow you, but you follow me.
Yes, hold on a second. So this will be separate, and then I'm going to share the screen.
Sorry for the interruption. Oh, Mira disappeared.
Oh no.
Oh dear.
Okay, so let's try if I can. I'm going to try to share my screen. It's not going to work. Wait, it's not working.
No, there is a problem because there is not anymore the menu. Normally there are two options.
She's back. We lost you for a second.
I'm back. Can you see me?
Yes, we can see you.
Yay, we made it.
We made it. So if you can follow me, you see where I
go.
Yes. All right.
Okay. So we are back to the presentation, and Anna was talking about the outcomes, and I'm talking about something else that is the tool, the Mobius Loop that we are using as a hub to navigate through different practices. Practices can be used during a discovery phase of a project or an initiative. And this means when I try to identify who are the actors, what are their target outcome, what are the goal that we want to achieve, and then we move into the space of the options. So we build a value slice and then a backlog where there are options that can be selected to land into the delivery. This Mobius Loop is coming from the outcome delivery community. It is an open source community, and it is not a new framework, but it is just a hub that helps navigating through different tools and practices that can be used during an initiative. So it is a continuous discovery and continuous delivery that can be used once, but also multiple times to prove that the hypotheses that we do during the discovery are going to be validated during the delivery. And this helps to identify and prove if the hypotheses that we do during the discovery are confirmed with tests and development from the team. So this means that we go through the discovery, identify the why, the outcome, we go through the option, then we move into the delivery loop, we measure and learn, and then we loop or we come back to change the discovery hypothesis that we have. On top of this, as a Red Hat team, we did added something that is this line at the bottom that we call foundation, because we thought that we were missing otherwise some practices that could be helpful from cultural point of view, but also from the technical point of view to help the team to deliver outcome. So this is a group of item where you can find things like a social contract or the visualization of work itself. It sits in the cultural space. Or in the technical space, there are other type of practices like mob programming, pair programming, containers, the big picture, these kind of things that help as a technology to prove during the delivery and the design of experiments and so on that the hypotheses are correct that we did during the discovery. So if you take this loop and you fit into the different example, here you can see all the tiles are not all the existing practices, but are commonly used practice by our team that sit into the discovery, such as target outcome, non-functional map, event storming, matrix-based process mapping, or the typical sprint planning or the Kanban, sprint event and Kanban practices. Or we have at the bottom the foundation of culture on the left and the technical on the right. So this is how we are using this Mobius loop to go continuously from discovery to delivery and prove what we are doing, testing with the users. And before going to the stories, real example, we talk about the importance of be sure that the information are radiating, and these are used by everyone. They are big and easy to see, both if they are in the real life face-to-face environment or in a mirror space. So they don't finish into a refrigerator, but there is the possibility for people to update the information very frequently. There is the possibility to collaborate. There is the possibility to see, and also from leaders and other teams, it's possible to see the information just as they pass by. So it's very easy to share and create awareness about what we are doing. I think it's time to go back to the stories. We have 3 stories, and Anna is starting sharing the first one.
Thank you so much, Ilaria. Mira, sorry for that, but if you could follow me now, that is probably going to work better. So yeah, we bore you with some theory, so let's move to some practice and show you how we've done those things with the real teams of real people. So the first story is about building the new distributed team and improving their skills. So that was an engagement that we did in virtual mode. So obviously we very widely used Miro, and our visualization of work was around this Mobius Loop. So the team was very new. They were just starting to work together. So and they were building a platform that was to be used to educate other people. So we started with like defining their why, then prioritizing items, designing the solution, defining some non-functional requirements, and that gave us 3 main target outcomes that we're going to focus on for the duration of that 8-week residency. And they were about like upskilling the team, so they are mainly able to continue working in this mode on their own, doing some technical proof of concept, and designing the process that is going to help them. So those 3 target outcomes were things that were giving us the idea in our value slicing, and all the work that was contributing towards those target outcomes was entered there. So we were keeping an eye on all of the 3 target outcomes, but since upskilling was one of the super important ones, I'm going to talk about that one. So in order to ensure that that outcome was always visible, we every time when we did the sprint review, we would have a retrospective, and the team would then assess their ability to understand the skills that are necessary to maintain the platform afterwards. So that was an incremental process that grew with time. But what was super important was that we were always having it visualized, and that was informing our backlog of things, and ultimately was informing our sprint goal. So at the end of week 6, sprint 6, that was week 8, we ensured that there wasn't a single line where the whole team had all the red stickies that were symbolizing that no one on the team has knowledge of the skill, and so on. So that's our story number 1, how we used to visualize that in order to achieve this outcome. There were some other cultural practices that we use, but I'm not going to cover them now because I'm going to move to story number 2. So story number 2 was slightly different. The team was in the face-to-face situation. So we were using the walls of our space where we were working together. And this team, they were also starting to work together as a cross-functional team. But for them, it was super important to validate the architecture of the new solution to ensure that it's sturdy enough and is resilient and it's going to support the really big customer base. So obviously we started our continuous discovery journey with very similar tools. We discovered the why, we discovered the priorities, we defined the work, and we were always updating the work in the sprint. But the more important, and maybe Mira, I could ask you to click on the play button. The super important artifact that we used for the visualization was this emergent architecture, because architecture was the focus. It was related to the outcome that was about silver threading through different components of the architecture. So every sprint we would add a little bit of the components of that, and it was visualized for everybody. So not just the team members, but all the stakeholders were able to visit our space, and they could see what we are working on currently. They could provide the feedback. And what was also super beneficial was that a few sprints in, we discovered that one of the solutions proposed was not really going to work. And as a result, we decided to change the architecture. So that was an example of how the good visualization of this architecture could stay up on, help us to stay on top of the outcome that we selected. So that's story number 2. And then we need to change the following to Ilaria, because she's going to tell us a little bit about how they use visualization in her story that she prepared for us.
Thank you, Anna. So the third story is about the leadership team and the management, how this team can support high-performing team to achieve their outcome at the best. So the situation is that many times we have managers and leaders that are willing to understand how we can keep this team high performing, or how do we get more teams that are high performing like this, and how do we learn from what we did in this initiative? I'm not sure why it's not zooming in if you are following me, Mira, because I'm zooming in. Are you able to follow me? I don't know. Okay. And this is how the managers that are brilliant and have the light in their eyes are willing to help their teams to achieve their outcome. And this is how we are helping them. So we are trying to use the same concept of the Mobius Loop that I explained earlier at different level. So maybe there are more teams, the application product team, the platform product team, but they have common foundations. So for example, there is a common social contract or a common way of working, a common pipeline, these kind of things that can help the teams to work consistently in a bigger initiative at different level, but with the usage of the Mobius Loop. So if you consider this, you can extend the usage of the Mobius Loop at a different level, up to the leadership. And this is where we use sometimes other practices and techniques to ensure that the leadership and the stakeholder are helping the team to achieve and sustain the team to achieve their goals. So what we commonly do is doing a walk the wall. So it is this is a specific walk the wall that is done explaining also the practice, the terminology with the extended team and with the managers, with the stakeholders, and this help in understanding also new terminology, also a new way of working the team is facing. And this is very important to increase the awareness of the management level. Then the second activity that we do is open leadership for product team. That is a more limited number of people that are part of a workshop that are really trying to understand how to help the team and be aligned and sustain the team in the long journey to scale and to continue working as a high-performing team, even when we are not helping them anymore. So these are two important practices that include the stakeholder and the management. And this means using the Mobius Loop at different levels. This is the last story, but we have a summary of tools and things that you can use for if you are interested. There are a few Miro templates that are published in Miroverse. Two of them are more complex workshop, so you can have a look on them. Click on this link when you have access later on to this board. And this is one area. The second one is the Open Practice Library. So there is this website that is called Open Practice Library, is sustained by Red Hat, but is an open source community, and everyone can contribute and publish the practices that we showed and we described you. So if you click on this link, you can see and click on the different area of the loop. What are the available practices? Are more than 200, I think, at the moment on the website, and you can see the why, how to use it, what to use, and who are the actors, and so on. In this context, consider that we are not inventing, or we did not invent a new framework, but we are using, in the context of the agile mindset with values and principles that are the agile one, a collection of practices that sit in the loops. So we are not creating a new framework, but the framework are composed by practices that can fit into the loop. So if you are wondering if this is how this fitting into the context of all the agile and DevOps space, this is how you can relate to them. And the last two links are about a book. We wanted to share the knowledge that we have on a book, so you can have it buying or downloading it. It is on separate chapters from our website, and is free of charge. And this is including all our knowledge on how we work and we deliver in Open Innovation Lab residency. And if you want, you can attend one of the more deeper walk the wall as we did now today, but there are sessions that are normally 1 hour, one every month, that we are organizing and are sort of webinar with our expert. So we are at the end of the presentation. Thank you so much. I am wondering if there are questions or there is any comment on the chat. Can you help us, Mira?
There are no questions at this point in time, but team, if there are any questions, please feel free to type them in the chat. There is actually one question in the Q&A, which is asking target outcomes. Is that a specific online tool or it's something you track yourselves?
So at this stage, we track it ourselves, but I know that there are some tools. I heard about the site Stellify or something like that. They were attempting to digitize that ability to track target outcomes. So I'm not sure if it's live yet, but I know that there was an attempt to do so.
We normally have a lot of templates internally, one for each practice, and then a combination of practices that solve the goal of different type of workshop and so on. And so we are very happy to use Miro, to be honest. And we started at the beginning of the pandemic, even before, because we did use Miro years before, but then heavily with all the customers at the beginning of the pandemic. And we created quite a good number of templates that we have internally.
So in the good spirit of making everything visible, we usually track them on the walls, whether real or virtual, but we don't put them on in the online tools. That's kind of where we are at this stage.
Yeah.
Thank you. There is another question from Kate, which is asking how likely after you introduce Miro and this agile way of working to your customer, they are to keeping working in the same way.
Oh, actually, we were the greatest ambassador of Miro at the beginning of pandemic, because everybody that we worked with that were using Miro, they were really happy, like how we combined those two things together. So majority of the cases, people just continued to use Miro and the ways of working we introduced with them.
Thank you. Let me see. Are there any further questions, team? We still have 3 more minutes to go.
Otherwise, there is the feedback that you requested at the beginning.
Yeah. Okay. I don't think there are any questions. Well, before you leave, can you please provide your feedback in the feedback tab? So there is one question that you need to ask in the poll, and other than that, we can consider the session done. Thank you very much for your attendance, for the interactivity. And then also big thanks to Anna and also to Ilaria for leading this great session. Thank you very much and have a lovely day.
Thank you so much, Mira. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a wonderful day too. Thank you. Bye-bye.